I think in evaluating Kazakhstan's foreign policy since the start of the war in Ukraine, we cannot isolate Kazakhstan's foreign policy and its diplomatic actions from its domestic context, especially within the last 2.5 years. And I think we should pay closer attention to the role of public opinion in shaping Kazakhstan's foreign policy. Since February 2022, it can be observed that Kazakhstan has been conducting an equidistant diplomacy within its larger hedging strategy that Kazakhstan has been relying on even before the start of the war in Ukraine. And according to the literature, equidistant diplomacy is a diplomatic tactic aimed at achieving the state's objective by signaling its neutral position, neutral image to domestic audience and to external actors. The conventional wisdom on the role of the public opinion in conducting foreign policy in international relations, foreign policy scholarship has predominantly focused on democratic countries in which the public can punish leaders in elections for failing to deliver a successful foreign policy. This concept is also known as audience cost. However, recent scholarship on audience cost has revealed that the public opinion matters in authoritarian settings as well. So I rely on 3 major public opinion polls that were conducted in Kazakhstan in building my arguments. So these polls were conducted by the Bureau for Express Monitoring of Public Opinion, Demoscope. So they took place in April 2022, December 2022, and May 2023, with a pool of 1,100 respondents from 17 provinces and 3 cities of national importance in Kazakhstan. So according to these surveys, the perceptions of the people in Kazakhstan on the war in Ukraine is subject to change over time, demonstrating that the perception tends to worsen towards Russia. For instance, the percentage of the respondents who think that Russia is waging a war against Ukraine with the aim of its occupation and further annexation has been on the rise. As in April 2022, only 13% of the respondents held such views, while in May 2023, after a year, it went up to 28%. Additionally, we can observe the emergence of deeper public reflection and open discussions in Kazakhstan in regards to decolonization and the role of Kazakh language. In May and June 2022, the Kazakh government officially expressed its position on the war in Ukraine by stating that Kazakhstan respects territorial integrity of Ukraine and that it neither recognizes the annexation of Crimea nor the independence of separatist entities such as Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics by referring to the UN Charter's territorial integrity principles. Moreover, Kazakhstan abstained from United Nations General Assembly votes on Ukraine to signal its neutrality. So the political observers in Kazakhstan argue that these statements and actions positively affected the current leadership, and President Tokayev's approval ratings went up after these statements. Although there is no official presidential approval ratings data in Kazakhstan, The May 2023 Demoscope survey shows that 75% of the respondents in Kazakhstan liked their president, and 61% thought that Kazakhstan was developing in the right direction. So what Kazakhstan has been trying to do since the start of the war in Ukraine is to reduce dependency on Russia while maintaining the existing relationship. And it has also been trying to increase economic cooperation with China, and we can see some results already. In 2023, China became Kazakhstan's largest economic partner, trading partner, replacing Russia.
Disintegration of the Soviet Union forced the Central Asian nations to grapple with the question of who they are as nations. For Kazakhstan, a country with multiple confessions and ethnicities, defining a national identity became a complex process and a task that required so much research. Because you know that Kazakhstan differs from other post-Soviet countries by its ethnic diversity that counts nearly 130 different ethnicities and religious tapestry of Kazakh society. Kazakhstan is still defining its identity as our nation experimented various approaches to nation building. The challenge lies in maintaining one's identity while embracing multiple facets. As we belong to a Turkic nation, part of the Muslim world, and at the same time a Eurasian, multi-ethnic and multi-confessional society. And one of the chief risks to stability in Kazakhstan is that the transition of political power will be accompanied by ethnic and identity conflict. With the new idea of building a new progressive Kazakhstan, our country is trying to focus on the culture and language. You know that the Kazakh language was and will be one of the most important symbols of the ethnic identity, which suffered through the Soviet intelligentsia, extermination of the ethnic intellectual elite who used the Russian as their main tool of communication in professional activities. So there is resistance to the desire of Kazakh language and other Kazakh symbols to dominate the hierarchy of symbols in the new Kazakh society. And this is not simply the prerogative of the state and government. Representatives of the civil society, academia, think tanks, and art media must take into account Kazakhstan's value and identity, accepting our past and moving forward. Located at the crossroads of Russia and China, Kazakhstan maintains substantial ties not only with the Central Asian neighbors, but also with the variety of countries, including the United States, the European Union, Japan, South Korea, India. Kazakhstan, since independence, has been trying to navigate through multi-vector balanced foreign policy, emphasizing the country's strategic positioning between heavyweight players such as Russia and China. I'd also like to highlight the rich geography of Kazakhstan, which extends beyond the Central Asian neighbors, including countries bordering the Caspian Sea, such as Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkmenistan, and Iran. We have a very pragmatic approach, and one of the greatest successes of the Kazakhstan's development are peaceful and predictable relations with all partners, emphasizing the interaction of cultural norms, geopolitical strategies based on common values and understanding and beyond geographical boundaries. Of course, Kazakhstan's foreign policy trajectory embodies a nuanced balance between we can say tradition and modernity, regionalism, and of course globalism as well. As a mid-level country, Kazakhstan is ready to use its unique opportunities to strengthen mutually beneficial relations for the benefit of all interested parties. In embracing its multi-identity heritage, Kazakhstan was paving the path toward the more inclusive and interconnected world.
The war in Ukraine, the Taliban's rise to power in Afghanistan, the water resource crisis, energy and logistic issues, these problems have brought the issue of close interaction and cooperation among Central Asian states to the forefront. Cooperation between Central Asian states occurs in both bilateral and multilateral contexts, with interaction within the framework of international organizations. Of particular significance is the organization of consultative meetings of the heads of Central Asia states. The first summit was convened in March 2018 in Astana. Nazarbayev, in his welcoming speech, noted that the summit was held on the eve of Nowruz, the New Year holiday common to all Central Asian peoples. Thus, the importance of common history, culture, and traditions was emphasized. 4 countries, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, speak Turkic language. Tajikistan, while speaking Persian, also shares a common cultural heritage with the Turkic people of the region. In bilateral cooperation, we can highlight 3 main directions. First direction include organizations CIS, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Customs Union, Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO. These organizations are engaged in the ongoing development of economic and political ties that were initially established during Soviet time. The initial group addresses economic collaboration founded on the political dependence of nations. In the perspective of participants and member states of the organization, Central Asian people associate them with the colonial past, which restrict their autonomy to develop and modernize independently. Second area is cooperation within the framework of Shanghai Organization. CSO countries are economically unified by New Silk Road, a transportation system designed to facilitate the movement of goods from China and Central Asian countries to Europe. Third direction of interaction between Central Asian countries, except Tajikistan, is cooperation within the framework of Organization of Turkic States. After the collapse of Soviet Union, Turkey actively began to promote the idea of integration of Turkic peoples and countries. In the period of more than 30 years, the direction has changed in content. Turkic states don't accept any big brother concept now. Each country promotes own political and economical interests. Also, at the present, a number of international Turkic organizations are functioning. Turkic Academy in Astana engaged in scientific research on Turkic peoples, while Turksoy Foundation of Turkic Culture and Heritage have facilitated cultural events. And one of the most important Turkic organization is Turkpa, which we aim is to unify the parliamentary system of the member countries of the organization. The principal challenge identified by Turkic Vision 2040 is that of political security. From an economic standpoint, the participating countries aim to develop a sophisticated logistics infrastructure that would facilitate trade and economic relations. To illustrate, the establishment of transportation and logistics system between Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan for the trade of oil, the provision of transportation for Turkmengas to Turkey is also a key objective. The next important issue is the development of military industry. All 5 Central Asian countries are actively acquiring Turkish Bayraktar and Anka. In Kazakhstan, the Aselsan joint venture has started their production. Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan are increasing ties with Turkey in the military industry. In the context of interaction of Turkic states in the expansion of geopolitical borders, it's possible to develop transport infrastructure for the functioning of the Trans-Caspian international transport route. Trans-Caspian Corridor or Middle Corridor is a proposed transportation route that would connect all countries between China to Europe, Georgia and Azerbaijan across the Caspian Sea. The seaports of Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan will be the primary means of transportation. The development of economic collaboration within the framework of OTS organization, with Turkey as a member of NATO, will contribute to the economic breakthrough, which may entail democratic transformations in the region.
Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, Kazakhstan has been targeted by various misinformation and disinformation campaigns. There are several factors influencing Kazakhstan's perception of this war in Ukraine. Firstly, I think the Soviet legacy, a shared historical, cultural, economic, and political ties with Russia make Kazakhstan as a crucial battleground for information warfare. Secondly, economic and societal factors play a big role. At the start of the war, as you know, an influx of people fleeing mobilization affected the emotional sentiments of Kazakhstani population, especially among young generation, due to rising rental housing prices, any kind of issues. Additionally, Kazakh-speaking individuals aged 40 to 50 years old fear the arrival of Russian old supporters. And thirdly, ongoing political events in Russia. Many Kazakhstanis in the beginning of war, who initially viewed the war as a quest for justice, now see Russia as having crossed boundaries of common sense. Since the invasion, discussions about the impact of Russian state propaganda on Kazakhstan's self-awareness through pro-Kremlin media have increased. In 2023, the Bureau of Public Opinion Express Monitoring, they conducted a survey on Kazakhstan's attitudes towards the war in Ukraine. The survey found that young people mainly supported Ukraine, while a sort of respondents are influenced by Russian propaganda. Overall, the audience showed disinterest in this war. The survey results indicated that aggressive narratives from Russian media shape Kazakhstan's information field than the official media of Kazakhstan. The study revealed no dominant opinion about among respondents regarding the conflict nature. For example, 36% of believe it is a Russian military operation against Nazis. 26% think it is a war to prevent NATO deployment in Ukraine. And 13% they think that view it is an annexation effort. It is important to note that only 39% of respondents primarily used Kazakhstani media, while 23% consume Russian news, only 2% trust Ukrainian media, and 1% of respondents trust Western media. And with 35% receive news from different sources. Over the past 3 years, some Russian media outlets have stopped broadcasting Kazakhstan by economic issues. Secondly, on June 19, 2024, it was recently, the president of Kazakhstan signed the law on mass media, which increases the weekly volume of domestic TV and radio programs in the state language to 55% by 2025 and 60% by 2027. Experts suggest that Kazakhstan should move away from being an information colony. The new law reduced the retransmission of foreign programs from 20 to 10%. Thirdly, according to the Damascus survey, 73% of respondents do not believe Russia will attack Kazakhstan. Media experts note that the Ukraine war is perceived mainly by a small, educated, urban, Russian-speaking population. all the Russian speakers actively supported Russian due to heavy exposure to Russian propaganda. Many Kazakh speakers are very wary of Russia, reflecting a trend toward decolonization. So, as I said, the Moscow survey showed that all the people who is speaking Russian, they more supported Russian. Disinformation tactics aimed at influencing Kazakhstan's perception of Russia's war Ukraine is included. The first is pro-Russian narratives. The second, false claims. And the third, historical revisionism, forced economic and social intimidation factors, and discrediting Ukraine and the West. To combat local and international misinformation or disinformation efforts in Kazakhstan, they can include, I think the first, most important is media, promoting media literacy, educating the public on critical assessing news sources and identifying disinformation.
As you know, since Russia's annexation of the Crimean Peninsula and the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the Kazakhstan education policies have evolved with several changes to reflect a heightened sense of a national identity and strategic alignment in response to shifting geopolitical dynamics. And especially after when we speak about this, we can see the two direction of this national educational policy. The first is like after Kazakhstan gained independence, the President Nazarbayev aimed to establish himself as a leader of the creator of the new Kazakh state, and his historical narratives like about Kazakh nationalism, Kazakh nationhood, focused on his own person. Is like he aimed to establish himself as a leader and the creator of the new Kazakh state. However, these efforts were not widely supported by society, and political opposition from the intelligentsia hindered his plans in the early years. And this situation changed after Russia's annexation of Crimean, and the Russian President Putin's statement that Kazakh statehood was created by Nazarbayev. This prompted Kazakh national ideologists to reassess their historical and ideological development, leading to a celebration of the 505th anniversary of the Kazakh Khanate. And in 2017, Kazakhstan's President Nursultan Nazarbayev issued a decree to transition the Kazakh language from Cyrillic alphabet to the Latin alphabet by 2025. But the main agenda of this project was to expand the influence of Kazakh language globally, where information is primarily in Latin. And however, when Kassym-Jomart Tokayev became president in 2019, he postponed this project until the 2031, and Tokayev has called the transition as a key part of Kazakhstan's spiritual modernization, but it was centered by a renewed interest in Eurasianism, as evidenced by the elevation of Golden Horde, implicitly praised as a mighty and advanced civilization. Yet in this context, it represented more than just military powers. It symbolized mutual tolerance and a symbiotic coexistence of different ethnicities and language. It was rather than solely cultural or economic advancements that elevated the Golden Horde as a great and civilized state. Tokayev is systematically trying to take over the so-called Eurasian agenda in in Russia, this state is quite popular, that Moscow is the heir of the Golden Horde and unifier of the Eurasia. Alexander Nevsky was a relative of the Genghisids. This kind of two ideology right now is competing themselves. by doing this, Tokayev needs to just trying to consolidate the Kazakh people to avoid the Jew system's negative consequences, like dividing of the society, and this by applying for the Kazakh version of the Eurasianism, like Tokayev trying to just implement a new project on like a educational system, especially in historical studies and political studies, that Kazakhstan is not Kazakh nationhood doesn't start from Kazakh Khanate, or the Kazakh nationhood starts from the Golden Horde.